bright. Oh my gosh, the sun right there. But hey guys, welcome to a new vlog. It's Nonfiction November week. So I want to go through the books. Yeah, I usually start them earlier, but my camera died when I was filming my sit down video, and yeah, so a lot going on. The first thing I have is my short story collection that I'm currently reading, and that is Night of the Living Res by Morgan Talty. This is interconnected short stories taking place in a native community in Maine. It's a debut collection just showing what it is like to be Penobscot in the 21st century. My apologies, of course, if I pronounced their people's name wrong. Oh, I'm not, my mind's not working. I haven't had caffeine yet. But the book that I am starting, or about to start, is Doppelgänger, by A Trip into the Mirror by Naomi Klein. So we're going to read the synopsis here together. When Naomi Klein discovered that a woman who shared her first name but had radically different, harmful views was getting chronically mistaken for her, it seemed too ridiculous to take seriously. Then suddenly it wasn't. She started to find herself grappling with a distorted sense of reality, becoming obsessed with reading the threats on social media and endlessly scrolling insults from followers of her doppelganger. Why had her shadowy other gone down such an extreme path? To find out, Klein decided to follow her double into a bizarre, uncanny mirror world, one of conspiracy theories, anti-vaxxers, and hucksters. In doing so, she lifts the lid on our own culture during this surreal moment in history, as we turn ourselves into polished virtual brands, publicly shame our enemies, watch as deep fakes proliferate, and whole nations flip from democracy to something far more sinister. This is a book for our age and for all of us, a deadly serious dark comedy which invites us to view our reflections in the looking glass. It's for anyone who wants a way out of our collective vertigo and back to fighting for what really matters. So yeah, that sounds very timely. Then my mood read at the moment, it does have an acetate cover, so I don't know if that's gonna cause a glare, but this is Daughter Mine by Herbert Gold. I haven't been able to find like anything on this book online. I saw it in an article, the LA Times article that I always quote, that's like 1,000 books to make America. This was on there for California, for San Francisco specifically, and yeah, it's spot on. But this is about a man who, Dan Shaper is his name, who he is a translator for San Francisco courts. So when people go to court, he translates what they're saying, you know. So he gets a call one day to his office from a girl named Amanda, and she's like, I'm your daughter. And he's like, I don't have a daughter. So it's a man finding out that he has a daughter from a one-night stand he had back in, you know, the hippie times, the early 70s in San Francisco. And then my ebook pick at the moment is, oh, we're blocking the sun. There I am. This is today's look. I'm wearing earrings for the first time in a while, and these are ones I've never worn before, so that's cool. But this is Written in My Own Heart's Blood by Dana Gabaldon. This is the 8th book in the Outlander series. For the main series, we're not counting the little spin-offs. But this is following a family during the American Revolution with some time travel elements involved. I'm sorry for the lighting in this clip, but it will get better throughout the vlog, I promise. Let's talk about Doppelgänger. I got to around 20%, a little less than 20, so I read 68 pages. This is definitely a slower one because it's a lot to take in. I know people got pissed at that one girl for showing, like, she's like, how are there this many words on a page? True, like, I feel like this is just bigger than your average paperback. I don't know if it actually is. This is the international edition of the book. Again, I got it from a bookstore in Paris. I did not go to Paris, never been there, but online shopping's a thing. So we're just gonna go through my thoughts because, you know, we don't do call pow with nonfiction. I don't know what the nonfiction equivalent is. Nobody has told me yet. So the first, in the introduction, I took a lot of notes. So she's just talking about There were plenty of other important things I neglected during this time of feverish subterfuge. That summer, I allowed my 9-year-old to spend so many hours watching a gory nature series called Animal Fight Club that he began to ram me at my desk like a great white shark. I did not spend nearly enough time with my octogenarian parents who live a mere half hours drive away despite their statistical vulnerability to the deadly pandemic that was rampaging through the globe and despite that lethal heat dome. In the fall, my husband ran for office in a national election. Though I did go on a few campaign trips, I know I could have done more. And like it goes on about just things that were happening at that time. It feels like a fever dream, 2020 does. That was a wild time that we all, if you're watching this, you survived. It's just crazy to think about everything that was going on. And then this is when the world changed and when we got into this rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, which I'm going to talk about my own journey with conspiracy theories in a moment. But for more than 20 years, ever since those jetliners flew into the glass and steel of the World Trade Center, I have been preoccupied with ways that large-scale shocks scramble our collective synapses, led to mass regression, and makes humans easy prey for that dimma, whatever word. So that's what a lot of her books have been on, about how these big events, the impact that it has on people, which that's really fascinating to think of too. And as I was just saying, the World Trade Center, well, not just World Trade Center, but 9/11, like when you picture that, you picture the planes slamming into the buildings. And that started out this century, what are we in, the 21st century? Yeah, 21st century. So how all of that kicked off this century and what everything from this century came from. That was the moment that changed everything. I was just a kid when that happened, but that's really when everything changed and the world got crazy and became a shitstorm. Oh, I'm not supposed to swear. I was like, I'm gonna stop swearing in my videos. So hold on. Okay, I was gonna go record in the kitchen because I had food on the stove, but I got it off the stove and I was like, I can't record in there. The lighting is so bad. I don't know why that is. And do you think like rooms that have darker color, like paint maybe contribute to that? I don't know, but we were talking about how 9/11 messed everything up, to put it more nicely than I had said earlier. It looks like 9/11, and then COVID was another like setting point of, we're gonna set the 2020s just like this. But what is this? So everything in the world isn't so clear, and everything isn't black and white, because she's talking about termed disaster capitalists have been able to rush into the gap where their pre-existing wish lists and simplistic stories of good and evil. Okay, yeah, this was that when a bad event happens, people are vulnerable. After 9/11, people were vulnerable. I'm not just saying in New York and Northern Virginia, Pennsylvania, people were vulnerable. Everyone was affected by that day. And that is when somebody, I think COVID's easier for me to talk about this with because I was an adult during COVID, when 9/11 I wasn't. So with COVID, it was something impacting everybody. Everybody in the world was impacted by COVID, whether you like it or not. They shut things down. They made you wear masks, vaccines, whatever. You're not made to wear masks. Like, they didn't have a gun to your head, but you know what I'm saying. So everybody everywhere knew about COVID-19. So some people were mad about it. Some people were scared. So people were vulnerable, because when you are in an extreme emotional state, you're not thinking correctly. So that is when people like these big businesses or other nations jump in, because they see somebody vulnerable, that's prey, they attack. And in this case, we are talking about with like misinformation online, and how it's just been something that as I conducted, not me, but as I conducted this research tracking the attacks on political rights as well as the auctioning off of public lands and services, I always imagined myself to be immune to these shock tactics since I knew how they worked. I was not scrambled by unprecedented events. My sight was clear during crises, and I would help others see clearly as well, or so I thought. So that is her plan with her books. And I mean, kind of that's what this is about, online personas. The brand you make online, we're going to talk all about that more. But how I was saying, how nothing is clear in life. Nothing is a straight line. Nothing is black and white. It's all, nothing is like that. And that's going in with rose-colored glasses, maybe. So I know I'm doing all ahead because I have a ponytail and I never wear my hair other than just down, so I'm enjoying myself. But okay, so the stories themselves may be cartoonishly wrong. You were either with us or with a terrorist, they told us after 9/11, along with they hate our freedoms. But at least the stories exist, and that alone is enough to make them better than nothingness of the gap. My next one is a culture crowded with various forms of doubling, in which all of us who maintain a persona or avatar online create our own doppelgangers, virtual versions of ourselves that represent us to others. A culture in which many of us have come to think of ourselves as personal brands, forging a partitioned identity that is both us and not us. A doppelganger we perform ceaselessly in the digital ether? As the price of admission in a rapacious, see, there are so many big words in this, we're going to get to that in a minute as well. Attention economy. So just how we create personas, and she's talking about what this book is about. It's not a biography of Naomi Wolf. It's nor a psychoanalytic diagnosis of her behaviors, and it's an attempt to just show her experience with having a doppelganger and how doppelgangers are so prevalent in our society without us realizing that they are. And then this is what is real. So uncanny people, upside down politics, even as artificial intelligence accelerates, a growing difficulty discerning who and what is real. That feeling of disorientation we tell one another about. So yeah, that's what I wrote here. Not that I said trying to find out what is real in the world of the internet, and that is what this book seems like it's going to be about by when I read the introduction. So we get to chapter 1 now. And my first step, so we're going all into who Naomi Wolf is. I didn't know who Naomi Wolf was. I didn't know who Naomi Klein was until this book. This is my first time hearing about both women. I had never heard about them before. So I have like no dog in the fight. So they're going to, Naomi Wolf started out as writing about sexuality and being a woman, basically, and how women, and this was in the 90s, how women associate like our looks with sex, or how men, we want to make ourselves desirable. And I've talked about this kind of in my makeup videos about how when I first started getting into makeup, it's because I want boys to like me. Now it's just because I have fun with it, and I make myself look how I want to look for me. When I see pictures of myself, I'm like, that's what I want to look like. And kind of it's going into this, that online persona, because we are putting those pictures outside. I'm like, this is how I want people to view me. Even though for me, I'm not doing it for the male viewpoint anymore. But so she was very much like white feminist is what it's trying to say. And she eventually married a man who worked with the Clinton administration. There's a lot of like IONs or whatever, Owens. So she marries him, and that gets her all involved in Washington. But again, Bill Clinton, that's a Democrat. And there was something really interesting about how when Clinton and Tony Blair in the UK went into office, they really were different than Democrats I'd seen before. And that made me think, okay, after, I know HW was the president, but after Reagan and after Thatcher, you had such big, powerful, conservative leaders. The Democrats had to kind of like reevaluate and change, where there is so much more like the economy and war and all involved, rather than what we see of Democrats back in like the 60s and like the, as I was talking about earlier, like hippie era. It was a completely different ballgame. And I actually had this conversation during election week about if, let's say like, the OG RFK and JFK, if they ran today as Democrats, would they win? If Ronald Reagan ran today as a Republican, would he win? I'm not going to go into that whole discussion because that's irrelevant, but I'm just saying the parties are constantly changing from what they used to be. So Naomi Wolf gets involved with that. She even, when Al Gore ran for president in 2000, he used her to trying to find out how to appeal to women voters. So she really got involved in this political landscape. And eventually she did start to turn far right. I don't remember exactly what it was when she started turning right. The Wall Street thing. What is it called? Oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Wall Street, OWS, what is that? Occupy Wall Street was when she started really like starting to make a turn, and when she got on Naomi Klein, who wrote this book's Atmosphere. Now Naomi Klein, I just told y'all earlier of what she was writing about, and oh my gosh, this is going so long because I'm having to explain so much. So I was like, okay, Wolf was all okay, because yeah, they were talking about how Wolf, everybody thought she wanted to like break the power system, but no, she really just went into it when she got involved with the Clinton administration. So Wolf was all talk the talk. Started as a white feminist, got involved with the ever-changing Democrats, and didn't want to bring down the power construct, but wanted in it. So that's just what I got out of that. Again, I don't know these women at all. So so a lot of this book, as I'm saying, these big words, a lot of this stuff goes over my head, like the political stuff, the economy stuff, like trade, that goes right over my head. And that's one of the reasons this is like a 3.25 or 3.5. I'm just struggling with that. I don't know a lot about that kind of stuff. So if you guys have any like entryway books into like economics and trade, tell me, because it's something, again, with this election cycle where I've realized I am not educated on, and I need to be, because was a huge thing with this election that people were talking about, and I was like, I don't know anything about that, so I just didn't care about it, and it's just something that I want to know more about. And again, I feel dumb when I'm reading about it. And then this one, oh, did I skip tabs? Oh yeah, I did skip tabs. Okay, so we did then there was this one of some stuff that Naomi Wolf was sharing online that kind of blew my mind. So this thing called vaccine shedding, that in Florida, one private school in Florida moved to ban vaccinated teachers from its classrooms. As a private school, they can do that. But vaccine shedding, people didn't want their kids to be around vaccinated grandparents because they thought that the vaccine was putting out toxins into other people. Like it was basically like, okay, so a sickness, when you're sick, you're putting it, you can breathe it out there or whatever, it depends on what kind of sickness it is. And they think the vaccine is like a sickness and you're putting it out there. I had never heard of this, even back during 2020. I had never heard of that. I was just like, that is crazy. But one thing that with this book, I feel like it's kind of just, I don't want to say snarky, but it's just saying, here's all this crazy stuff that Naomi Wolf has tweeted, and that is making Naomi Klein seem like she's a better person, when yeah, I am more so, politically speaking, on the side of Klein, but I'm just like, why did Naomi Wolf become this person that she did? Like, why does she tweet this stuff? I want to know more about that. And again, I'm only 19% of the way into this book, so hopefully I do find out, because I know she said it was in a psychoanalysis, but I'm like I need more backing. And then here's where I was talking about online, being a brand. So if I had become a brand, it was no longer credible to feign innocence. So I was like, okay, why would you feel this way? Why would you not want to be a brand? Because brands become so big, so popular, they have to have a downfall. And you have so many eyes on you. You have so many eyes watching you. So it's like walking a tightrope. You could take one misstep and oh my gosh, we're at 12 minutes. So let's go to our next one here. So there was also a part of body and soul. And how that is kind of a doppelganger, because you have who you are on the outside, we have how we look, and then we have how we are on the inside. It's like, are we really like that? Maybe with Naomi Wolf, is she really like that? Does she believe everything she's spewing? Or is that just where the money's at, is spewing to a far-right conservative audience rather than a far-left audience? I don't know, but there's body and soul, so there's who you are on the outside versus who you are on the inside, who you really are. And that's, in a sense, a doppelganger. Doppelganger, I cannot talk. And then two books I'd recommend with this, they were talking about making a lot of AI talk of bringing AI of a dead family member, and maybe there's something you never told them when they were alive and you tell them now that they've passed to an AI. And it was like, so that kind of reminded me of the books How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu and The Many Daughters of a Fong Moi. Is it Jamie Ford? I'm forgetting that author's name, but I do really like that book. And then my last tab, influencers and an authenticity arms race competing over who can be rawer and more revelatory. And yeah, I talk about that on my channel all the time. I try to stay as real as possible to y'all. I don't want to be fake. And yeah, it's not really an arms race to me. It's just who I am, I guess, and just how we create these online personas of ourselves because we want to emulate this perfect life. Or some people who have pity parties online because everybody is just ultimately wanting attention online. I don't think everybody, we don't generalize around here, but so there's some people who just want to show off being like, look how great my life is, even though maybe behind the scenes it's not. Or there's people who are like, here's how bad my life is, feel bad for me. So there's just a lot that comes on about having that online persona versus who you really are. I mean, my YouTube videos, I only say they're edited. You're not seeing a 100% straight thing. I just told you I went to the kitchen and was like, no, I'm not going to go record in there. On my sit down videos, I usually have a filter on my face because I think people will want to click it if I look prettier. I'm just being honest with y'all that there's doppelgangers everywhere. You have a different persona online than you do in real life. It's crazy out there. I got to 25% in Daughter Mine, and okay, so here are my thoughts. The chapters so this is like alternating chapters so far anyway, and I'm on chapter 5, that the chapters that are of Dan Shaper when he is at work, like, I don't care. But now it seems like the people he's working with are people connected to his daughter, so that might make it more intriguing. But like all the legal stuff and all, I'm like, I don't really care about this. And let me tell you this. So this book was published in 2000, and there's I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there's some like racist undertones, but obviously that could just be because of our characters and all of that. So I can understand, like, I don't understand why people are racist, but you know what I mean. Like, I think that it would make sense for the characters to be the way that they are, being in the time period that we're in, and white men. Yeah, of the time period we're in it, and like the generation that they are. It hasn't said like straight up slurs, at least I don't remember any, and I feel like that would be something I would remember. But so there hasn't been like slurs or anything like that, but just the way that some of it's written. Yeah, but so those chapters aren't really appealing to me, but the chapters when he's with his daughter Amanda and they're just like getting to know each other 19 years when she's 19 years old, you know, I've really liked those chapters, and where I'm like, oh, it's been a great book, 4-star quality. But then it goes to those chapters of where he's, yeah, I was putting down my ratings of the chapter, like what I would rate each chapter. So it's been like 4.3, 4.3, 4.3, that kind of vibe. But yeah, the setting of San Francisco has been amazing. I don't know the author. Okay, yeah, he lives in San Francisco, because I'm like, it just seems straight up San Francisco. You can tell the author knows what he's writing about. And how I was kind of like upset that it took me like 12 minutes to talk about Doppelgänger earlier. I'm like, this is my YouTube channel. I can talk as long as I want. Y'all can skip ahead to the next clip if you don't want to hear it. So I don't need to feel bad about talking, because that's why I do these. I love to talk about what I'm reading and analyze what I'm reading. So I don't have to limit myself, is what I'm saying, because I was just sitting there like thinking of that after I had finished that clip when I was eating my dinner. I was sitting there thinking. So that's all for today. I'm going to read some of Outlander. I'm going to edit my sit down video of the week, my November wrap up, and that's the plans for the rest of the night. Oh, happy Tuesday. It's the first clip of the vlog of the day. But I read another 68 pages in Doppelgänger, and I said I read, I think, 5 or 4 chapters yesterday, but it was 3 chapters. I don't know where I went wrong on that. So something that I'm doing now, so I paid 18 bucks for the audiobook. I'm not listening to the audiobook as I'm reading, but before I go to bed, I go back and listen to what I read today, just to get a better understanding. I am wanting a better understanding of what I'm reading. As I told y'all, there's the big words, politics, economy stuff that I am struggling with. So I guess economic stuff, not economy stuff, but I want to have a better understanding of what I'm reading. So here are the tabs that we are dealing with today. I opened a new pack, so that's nice, but they don't have the little clip where I can clip it on the side. But let's go through the thoughts today, going back to page 68. So we even have notes here on our first page of the day. So I accidentally listened to this chapter last night because for some reason, again, I thought I had read 4 chapters, but I hadn't. So this, okay, here we go. So one of the most celebrated depictions of doppelgangers in Western art is a lush, pretty Raphael, that's what it is, but painting by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. It depicts a couple in medieval dress in a dark forest who come across another couple who are their mirror image. So I have the image in my head. I don't know what this painting is, never seen it, but I have such a great image in my head. So it is not a happy encounter. The man who sees his double draws his sword in anger, while his female companion faints, overcome by the uncanny sight. The piece is titled How They Met Themselves. And oh, fuck, my bookmark fell out. Oh my gosh, I swore. I'm telling you, I need to stop swearing. It's bad, but okay. So, but this painting, here are my thoughts. So I love the realizing, or I love this. Can't read my own. I've realized when I write with the pencil, I can understand it better than when I write in the pen, but you know, I have these pens, so I gotta use them. So I love this, realizing who we really are without the filters, because if we're going by like social media and the internet, it would be a horde of some would pass on and be like, that's really what I'm putting out there, that's not who I am. And I just, that painting was probably done in the 1500s or something, and it's still so relevant to today because humanity doesn't change that much. And then this is from the late author and theorist Bell Hooks. People with healthy self-esteem do not need to create pretend identities. And that is so true. It's the most mentally ill people I know who are the ones. I mean, yeah, I think if you're creating this whole other image, then yeah, you're probably pretty messed up. But yeah, it's very sad. And then we go to our next page, so revisiting Hook's text in the context of her timeline, but this was also kind of talked about yesterday, performative activism. So much of intellectual and activist life today is about credit claiming. Now this is saying, like, I started that first and everybody else is doing it, but yesterday we had an example of one of Naomi Klein's students who she got rid of Instagram because it wasn't doing well for her mental health, because she was comparing herself to other girls and all of that thing, which I can totally understand. That's why I didn't get TikTok until this year, because what I knew of TikTok was like pretty blonde girls dancing and I'm sorority girls, and I'm like, no, that's not me. But then I found out that there are like book videos and all different kind of things, but I was so scared that I was gonna have all this stuff put in my face that would put me in a really bad place mentally. So I understand completely staying away from social media. But 2020 rolls around and the Black Lives Movement happens, and if y'all remember that there was like that day you posted a black square, I did it, that to say you stand with Black Lives Matter and to stand with black people being affected by the police brutality and everything and just racism. And so everybody was telling the girl, they're like, you gotta get back on there, you gotta post it or people are gonna think you're racist, even though she had already been going to rallies in her city and, you know, doing activism. But if you don't post about it, it's irrelevant. And yeah, like I went to a rally and I donated money and I wore t-shirts and everything, and yeah, I still posted it. But like, why are things like that? I see it all the time, especially in booktube. It was really bad back then. Like, people had a list of creators who hadn't said anything. That is insane to me. Like, I cannot believe people were like that. So this was another thing. So Wolf and her fellow travelers have spent they're fighting against authoritarianism, fascism, and genocide, nothing less than humanity's worst crimes. And that like kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow, both sides, left and right, are really fighting against the same things, but they view those things differently, and how they both view fascism in different ways. They're like, yeah, it's a terrible thing, but the ways they think it is are completely different. But everybody is really fighting the same thing. I was just like, wow, who knew? So then we go into part 2 of our book here, and there's definitely, so when I started listening to the audiobook, Naomi Klein herself is narrating it, so I kind of take back some of the stuff I was saying yesterday where I thought Naomi Klein was like saying she was better than Naomi Wolf and acting like people are less than for having a different opinion. I don't think that anymore. The more I read of the book, and as I said yesterday, I was only at 19%. Now I'm at 38%. So obviously it's a journey that we're going through. We're on a trip into the mirror world. So it says here, her facts were largely fantastical, but Wolf was nonetheless providing people with something they clearly wanted and needed, a focal point for their fear and outrage over digital surveillance. And this was about like the vaccine passport kind of things. And I was like, isn't that what passports are anyway? Because they were like, you have to be vaccinated to go certain places. But I'm like, y'all are fine with a passport where to be permitted into another country, because some countries don't accept US passports, and so you're fine with that, but when it's a vaccination status, you're not fine with. Yeah, we're not going to get really into that, but that's really, I've never really thought about that. But yeah, so you can definitely see that Naomi Klein is showing an understanding of why these people believe what they believe. Also, this was an interesting thing. So in 2021, Pfizer alone earned $37 billion from the COVID vaccine. So at the end of the year, while countries like mine, which is Canada, were already rolling out their doses, just 7.5% of Africans had received one shot. So this was a human rights issue with the hoarding and profiteering of vaccines. And I'm like, that is so wild. I never knew about that. Okay, so in America, I think you're better off if you if you're better off getting the vaccine or not. That at least in America is that you have resources. There are hospitals everywhere, urgent care is everywhere. But yeah, it might break the bank. It could be really expensive. But people in Africa who, if they don't get the vaccine, they get COVID, they don't really have a lot of access to medical stuff, locations. They're SOL, you know? Not swearing. So, yeah, it's just totally messed up that Americans were already getting their third doses when only 7% of people in Africa had their first, had the first dose. And let's see, what else do we have in here? So yes, the format of this book is where it's just, I feel so clustered. I feel frustrated reading the formatting. So we have Naomi Wolf, and this is how each chapter is formatted. Naomi Wolf and how she's impacted Naomi Klein's life and just the crazy stuff that Naomi Wolf is saying. And then 2, we have 2020 and all the crazy stuff that was happening in 2020. And then 3, another different kind of form of being a doppelganger. That is how each chapter is lined up. And I'm just like, make it make sense. This is too much that it's just going over my head. I feel dumb reading this, in all honesty with y'all. It's just the way it's formatted. I think I'm like, what even is the point of having all this doppelganger stuff? I think it's irrelevant. Like, yes, that's how this story came to be, and I would get it, having it mentioned like at the start, being like, I have a doppelganger who is the complete opposite of me, except we had the same name, we're both of Jewish backgrounds, and that kind of thing. I don't, the formatting, it's really grinding my gears. And yeah, this is another thing, that it's just going in circles. So it seemed worth trying to figure out what was driving that transformation, the transformation of how Naomi Wolf went from a Democrat to this is when she's finally jumped on like the Trump train and is not just leaning right, but is siding with Donald Trump. And so it's like, how did she get there? So this is the post-left lurch to hard right. And I'm like, okay, we keep talking about it, but can you please go into it and why this is happening? And so another thing is that COVID has redrawn political maps in country after country, blurring left-right lines and provoking previously apolitical cohorts to take the streets. And so I think the main point of this book is how COVID had such a huge impact on the world, how we talked about at the start with 9/11, and how Naomi Klein, what she usually writes about, is how people deal with a disaster, how everybody does. And I think that's what this book is how people are dealing post-COVID. Yeah, that's my thought on that. I just had that idea just then. Now we have 2 more tabs, so, you know, bear with me here. Okay, but I can turn. I thought I had more. Oh, 3 more tabs. Sorry, I didn't see the green one. And again, this is what I'm talking about. So are we going to get to the explanation? We're going in circles. But almost everyone I talk to these days seems to be losing people to the mirror world. People who were familiar but have somehow become alien, leaving us with that unsettled, uncanny feeling. I can't talk to my sister anymore. My mother has gone down the rabbit hole. I'm trying to figure out how to get my grandmother off Facebook. He used to be my hero. Not every conversation ends in a screaming match. What happened to them? And that is so how I felt after this election, where I didn't understand. I couldn't understand a lot of it. And this book keeps hinting that we're going to go there and find out why this all happened. But it's not going there. And I'm like, I want to know. And then this was something I found interesting. So this could have been easily explained by medical experts skilled in helping the public weigh the pros and cons of health decisions. Many media outlets, however, seemed gripped by the fear that anything more than a pass-through report on possible risk would damage vaccine uptake and provide fodder for the conspiracy crowd. And that's something that it goes into, is that these people were uneducated. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but they didn't know about these vaccines, and they had questions. Like, you know, there was so much going around, like horse medicine and all that stuff. People had questions, but the people in charge were just waving them off, being like, that's nutty, that's crazy, instead of explaining to these people, instead of educating these people. I talk about a lack of empathy all the time, and that's something that Naomi Klein speaks of here, is how people were like, if you didn't get the vaccine, you deserve to be in that hospital bed. What? Because the same people were like, being vaccinated to protect other people and to respect other people, but then you don't care if they're in the hospital bed. You're saying it's their fault because people lack empathy. That is what I'm starting to believe is the biggest issue in the country. So then this is another one that, when was this book published? 2023. And this past November, this November that we're in right now, it says inclusive nationalism is what Steve Bannon, is that his name, Steve? Is trying to do. And it was a growing number of Black and Latino people, particularly men, are open to voting Republican, in part over frustrations with how COVID measures affected their jobs and small businesses, and also over discomfort with their kids coming home with unfamiliar ideas about mutability of gender. And then it says, though it didn't pan out in the 2022 midterms, it's possible this approach will be enough to cobble together another presidential victory. And what happened in 2024? So those are my thoughts and notes from Doppelgänger today. This is still like a 3.25, a 3.5, somewhere in that ballpark. I'm gonna get dressed up later, but it's Wednesday and I am having such a lazy day. It's so dreary here, and Wednesdays are my off day, so I don't do anything except go to Target. I was gonna go to B&B today, but I have so much food here because I had Texas Roadhouse yesterday, and today I'm going to get some, I'm gonna make tacos later. So I just have so much food, and B&B, that was the box I get can last me like 3 meals, so I didn't go there. So therefore I've just been chilling in bed all day, but I really need to get to reading because I haven't done that yet, which this is usually when I start reading. It's not like I'm behind or anything. So I'm going to read The Blessing, Tobacco, and Night of the Living Red. Time to do my update on Doppelgänger of the day. So I had to stop in the middle of a chapter because one of my bookish pet peeves, and I know like the really pretentious people on Book Talk don't like this, but when a chapter is over 30 pages, that's double what I like a chapter to be. I can't do it. Like, I'm doing it, but I have to take breaks in between. It's just so difficult for me to focus that long, and just it's a lot of information being thrown at you at once. And all the chapters today have been at least over 25 pages, and as I told you, I'm just really tired today, just where I am in the month and everything. It's when I am tired because I took Tylenol today, so I'm just, yeah, I'm not focusing that well. But I do want to go through my thoughts with y'all. So the mirror world, what is it? Because our subtitle is A Trip into the Mirror World. So the mirror world is the internet, or maybe the far right conspiracy world. So, but with my internet theory, a lot of people believe everything online when the majority of it is fake or altered. So therefore, it's a mirror of our world, just slightly tweaked. My next tab is here. It says, yeah, this is something that I came across several times in my reading today, is we avoid some subjects or questioning topics because we don't want to be viewed as them conspiracy theorists. So when a lot of people have questions, they are scared to ask because they don't want to be seen as a conspiracy theorist. They don't want to be seen far right or far left, because I think it can go either way. If somebody has a question, they're scared of being viewed as something else when really they are just wanting to learn. And that's a big thing today, is I wish more people went to Montessori schooling like I did, because that encourages your desire to learn. And that is why I read so much, is because I want to learn and know everything in the world. So I just wish that people weren't so judgmental. And I say it all the time, is what I'm starting to realize the biggest issue in the world is people lack empathy, therefore lack compassion. And yeah, you can just, it's so noticeable nowadays because of COVID. Everything we're in this, it's about how a lot of people who were in like the wellness community before COVID were there, and in the exercise world. So during the COVID pandemic, gyms and like, you know, any kind of workout place like yoga, dance, whatever, had to be shut down because you're heavy breathing when you're working out, and COVID was a disease, or not, I don't know, sickness that from, you know, air. And so that therefore wouldn't it be safe to be around each other. Having a mask on working out, that does not sound fun. I never did that because I've never had a gym membership, so I've always worked out at home, or, you know, just go on walks or whatever. But I cannot, no, that grosses me out. I'm thinking of the sweat dripping, no. But so all those people lost business, and a lot of them weren't able to come back from that. Their businesses shut down, their livelihoods ruined because the government had them be shut down. And so therefore that made those people side with like COVID conspiracies and all of that, or be against the government. And then people, a lot of people were like, if you're healthy, you don't need to worry about COVID. These people who are like the health nuts or whatever online, nothing against them, to like, oh no, I'm just saying what the book's saying, is that the really like healthy people into the health and wellness were like, our bodies are healthy, we don't need to get a vaccine because we are healthy, we don't need it. So COVID just caused so much. So in short, it was a who's who of woo, alternative health, women's wellness, and spirit-infused diet and fitness. All were now hopelessly entangled with the surging far right and had become card-carrying citizens of the mirror world. And then we have a tab here. And yeah, this is another thing is when talking about those people like in the wellness and exercise world, you definitely don't have the right to ask them health related things because, so actually let me go back a little. So it's clear from these comments, at least for these trainers, if you aren't as peak fit as they are, you don't have a right to have opinions on any aspect of health. And you definitely don't have a right to ask anything health related. And that is when I was talking about empathy a few minutes ago, is that was a whole thing during the COVID pandemic. We talked about a few days ago with the like government like panels or whatever they would have, conferences where people would ask about, you know, different kinds of medicines and whatever, and the government would just kind of wave them off because they didn't want to scare people with the vaccine. So that is something huge, is a lack of communication, which is another huge issue that people have, and that causes division because people are just trying to learn and the sources are waving them off, throwing them away. That's something with this book. I think it does a great job of calling out like both parties, calling out all these different kinds of people, because nobody is perfect, and especially in COVID, nobody was perfect. You know, hindsight is 2020. We can look back and be like, this is how we should have handled that situation. And I think the author is doing a great job at showing that. The willingness to write off huge swaths of humanity that are cast as lesser than supremacist narratives is the strongest glue that binds together the pastel-hued, self-loving world of women's wellness with the fire-breathing, immigrant-bashing world of the ban and right. And then I have one more tab here. Naomi Klein's child has autism, and in British Columbia, they had resources, but when he was a few months old, they moved to Toronto to be closer to her husband's family. And when they get to Toronto, which is the largest city in Canada, I'm pretty sure, that there were not a lot of resources for children with disabilities. Now, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, whoa, but it does make sense. So in my standpoint, I'm like, it's a big city. They have everything in a large city, and especially somewhere like Toronto that is so just huge, like metropolis. But it's because there's so many people that it's just all backed up because all these people are trying to get help, but it's too many. It's an overload, you know? And I've only heard about in Canada that like, it may be free healthcare, but there's that long wait time because so many people, since everybody can afford it, they're in this long line. And then she talks about when the family moved to New Jersey in America, it was a crazy difference because the schools had like everything that you needed. They had the like psychologists, speech therapists, all of like, you know, all different kinds of things that a child with autism would need in America. Like it's this, yeah, it's crazy. Each country has their own issues with healthcare, and some have good things, some have bad things. I doubt there's anywhere that is 100% perfect. So those are my thoughts from Doppelgänger for the day. I did get a book today at Target. I got Cher, the memoir part 1, because I mean Cher's lived quite a life, so you know, where she's gonna need multiple memoirs. What publisher is this? D Street, I don't know how you say that, but oh my gosh. You know the part where it talks about the author just says Cher as a global icon? Yeah, like if you don't know Cher, like what are you doing? So I got that at Target today, and I saw where they had like the Christmassy books, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then the Bridge Kingdom romance book, that's been one on my radar a long time, and I saw it at Target and I was like, ooh, gonna have to pick that up sometime soon. Thursday, it's cold again. I pinned my notes for the first time in months because Thanksgiving is coming up, so I was like, holidays, we should look nice. So I know these won't last till Thanksgiving, but I wanted to have something on my nails. But I got to the halfway point in Night of the Living Raz by Morgan Talty. This is 3-star vibes. It's just because, okay, so this is slice of life, and I'm just kind of bored, honestly. Like, I do like the stories. They're all like 3-star stories. Like, I like them. My favorite so far has been In a Jar, which is the second story in this, and it's very much coming of age, and I do like that. Like, I like this. My only problem is that I just get kind of bored because it's a slice of life. And it maybe if the writing was more poetic, I would like that better. And the characters, I do like our characters. I think they're well developed and we're seeing them grow. This isn't in like a chronological order, but it's still not making it confusing or anything. It's very easy to follow our characters' lives and everything. So that's how I feel at the halfway point in that. Night of the Living Reds. Okay, these are my final thoughts in this vlog on Doppelgänger because it looks like I'm going to be finishing it tomorrow and I don't vlog on weekends. So when I have my final thoughts together, that will be on Goodreads and Storygraph, which are always linked down below in the descriptions of my videos, so you guys won't miss out anything because it will be over there. But also, I love the broke spine. I'm one of those people, it makes me feel accomplished. So we're just gonna go through my notes that I took today in the book. Our first chapter was going back in that chapter about autism and the anti-vax prequel, which is a great title for what this was about. So I did, at first I like highlighted all of this because I had been thinking of this the other day about something completely unrelated before I even started this book, about changelings. So you can see this really on the show Outlander. That's where I was first introduced to this, is that in Irish and Celtic legends, if they thought something was wrong with the baby, they would put it out there thinking the fairies changed it. And they would do awful things. Like they would, it says some ways the parents have responded to these supposed child swaps also. Okay, hold on, no, that's the wrong sentence. But they were putting babies above like boiling water, hoping that it would get the fairy out of them. And just, you know, really awful things because again, back then they did not know about autism and about special needs people with disabilities. They thought that there was some kind of creature in the child making it not normal. Now, what does the anti-vax prequel mean? So basically, as I told y'all yesterday, Naomi Klein, her son, has autism, or I don't know if she ever actually clarified exactly, but I think it was autism. And so she, you know, she goes to a lot of events and like, you know, classes for kids like at the YMCA for special needs children. And, you know, obviously she's going to be talking to the other parents there, and a lot of the parents will blame the vaccine, not the COVID vaccines, but any kind of vaccine. I had heard this too in my real life, that people think vaccines cause autism. So it's just something to put the blame on, how back in the old days of legend, back in ancient times, people were thinking that there were fairies inside their children, when now it's a vaccine that's inside the child, and that is the sudden change from normal to not normal by, you know, how they are saying it. But yeah, so I thought that was incredibly interesting, and I had never thought of it as like the anti-vax prequel. And then there's another thing, obviously with the Nazis, they were awful to anybody different, but that includes people with special needs. And basically before that, in Austria, after the Second World War, there was this thing called Red Vienna. And Red Vienna was kind of a utopia for people with special needs families who had somebody with special needs. And really for people in general, because it was like in Red Vienna that started at birth, when poor mothers were sent packages of diapers and clothing so that they would not have to resort to wrapping their newborns in newsprint. No Viennese child should be born on newspaper, the campaign declared. Armies of care workers were hired in health, education, and social services. Glorious parks, working-class summer camps, and public swimming pools were constructed, and a wave of kindergartens and after-school care programs were established. And schools incorporated experimental new forms of outdoor art and education, much to the mockery of conservatives who claimed the children would never learn to read and write. So they were doing all of that. Come around World War II and the Nazis happen, some of these same scientists behind that got to choose which kids could live or not, which kids to send to concentration camps. And the man behind that was Asperger's. That was his name, and that is who the, what Asperger's, there's another word, disorder, I don't know, but that's not a word that's really used anymore now. In my childhood, people were still using that word. I know people who said they had Asperger's, but now that's not really used. But that form of autism is named after a man who could decide if your child got sent to a concentration camp or not. That was crazy, and it's so crazy how Vienna went from basically utopia to a dystopia for how people with special needs were treated, and that just, it breaks my heart. It's awful, awful, awful. I'm getting kind of emotional. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, I loved this whole chapter, the autism and the anti-vax prequel. I am loving hearing about Naomi Klein's experience being a mother and her son, hearing stories about her son, because you can tell she was very nervous doing this chapter because she didn't want to exploit him in any way. So she used stories that she thought could be like any kid, or things that any mom would go through. She doesn't say her kid's name and all that, and I think that this was just so well done and not exploitatory. That's not how you say it in any way. And I really enjoyed that chapter. It was probably my favorite so far. And then again, what is this whole book about? How apolitical people could have become obsessed with terrifying COVID conspiracy theories, and obviously that leads to other conspiracy theories. And yeah, the shock of entanglement is what it's called here. Next tab. Okay, so I'm just going to read y'all this paragraph. So power, and this is how conspiracy theories aren't necessarily a bad thing, because some have proven to be true, like the revolution in Iran, of all of that, of America's involvement in that, and then America with Chile, which I don't know much about this. There were gold, some kind of mines, and America, had to get involved. So power and wealth conspire to protect themselves. It happens in public and it happens in private. It happens under the spotlight and it happens in the shadows. That sounds like Dr. Seuss, but so this is what I highlighted here. So in attempting to understand the ludicrous theories swirling in the mirror world, we should be very careful not to be so reactive that we end up saying that sadism and depravity do not happen, and that only a loony conspiracy theorist would believe something so out there. I mean, yeah, these clothes, these fashion clothes is what it's talking about. So a girl can look stylish in the United States or Canada, but somebody in Bangladesh, a girl the same age, is making these in a sweatshop. Like, it's awful. And how slavery is still very much alive. Like, if you look at cities like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where they were all made by migrants, and then it said in China, where they make the smartphones, they have nets so people can't jump to suicide. It's crazy. So this is a note that's something I've thought about for a while, and it's, yeah, over and over again, journalists and politicians on the right and independent researchers on the left acted as if they had uncovered a conspiracy that wily elites were trying to hide from them. If so, it was the first conspiracy with its own marketing agency and explainer videos. Why is independent research bad? I feel like in this way it's saying that it's bad. And I heard it on a podcast, and it was somebody I liked who was talking about it. So when I was in school, one of my favorite teachers, he was a history teacher, he told us if anything he's teaching us doesn't sound right, to go do our own research. And I truly believe that. If you hear something anywhere, you need to go do your own research. And now I think a lot of times in this instance, she's saying people who are like, the horse medicine will cure COVID. I don't know if it does or not, so don't come for me. But these wellness people, and saying like this essential oil will cure cancer, which no, when I do my research, I feel like I am looking at sources that are reliable sources. Yeah, so I just always feel kind of icky when they're like, you shouldn't do your own research, because I personally think that you should, but you do need to be smart about what you're doing and not believe in everything you see on the internet. Because when they say not to do your own research, I'm like, okay, what's the point of having an encyclopedia? What's the point in the dictionary if we're not supposed to go learn about something? It's just something that I really struggle with. So if you guys, this is something I'm asking for your opinion on. Do you think it's bad for somebody to do their own research, and why? Or are you like me and think that it's not bad? I want to know your opinions in the comments below, but as always in all comments, be civil and don't treat people like they're stupid or anything like that, because that doesn't get anything done. We want to be civil and respectful of everybody. So there we go there. So those are going to be all my thoughts on Doppelgänger in this vlog. So if that's why you watch this vlog, you can exit out. But I would like you to stay for the next few minutes to see what other things we come across. But those are thoughts on Doppelgänger. I am here to wrap up the vlog for y'all. So let's just go through the stats for the week. So I've read over 50 pages every day this week. On Monday and Tuesday, I read over 110 pages actually, but yesterday I only read 94. And today I'm not sure if it's going to get to 100 pages. I don't think so. I think again it's going to be in the late 80s or 90s. So I hauled 2 books this week, but I have bought more on eBay, not gonna lie. But so far I got Share the Memoir Part 1, and this one I didn't show in the vlog, but Fire from Heaven, which is a book that was published in 1969 by Mary Renault. I don't know how you say her last name, but it is a historical fiction about Alexander the Great, who is in my historical movie thing. I'm at William the Conqueror now, so I'm just going back and looking at book recs I got on Reddit for the time periods that I've already watched, and that was one that frequently came up, and that's the books that I'm currently hunting for when I am looking for like secondhand books or whatever. So I did not finish any books this week. Again, I do think I will finish Doppelgänger tomorrow, and hopefully I finish some other books. I hope so. You never know though. But last week I finished 4, which is a lot more than usual, and I've been doing good with my water intake. But that is the vlog. For next week's vlog, it will be our December reset, so getting ready for a new month, getting all these hauled books where they go, because I'm gonna buy a new bookcase on... I'm gonna buy it sometime in the next week. I don't know, because we do have like Black Friday and everything this coming week, so I'm probably just gonna wait around for sales, see if they have any. Oh, is Small Business Saturday next week? So yeah, because I buy my bookshelves or bookcases from a small business, so I'm wondering if he's going to do a sale. But so next week's is the reset. I will still be reading nonfiction for Nonfiction November, but our main focus is on doing the reset, getting ready for a new month, getting ready for the last month of the year, getting the reading in order, getting my TBR all straight for December, seeing what formats I want to read for the books. We're going to do some journaling in my journal for, again, the last spread of the year. That's crazy to think about, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a Thanksgiving emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!